Hello and welcome back to episode 8 of What's on Your Mind podcast. Again, I'm Cassandra, if you don't know that by now, and this is Tori. And this is our last episode of the year. So that's exciting. We made it 8 whole episodes.
We have,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, this one is going to be maybe a little different than what we have been doing, just kind of talking about what we've enjoyed about doing the podcast and what our hopes for the new year.
hmm
And then we do have one question that we'll be talking about, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, so Tori,
Oh, you're gonna ask me? Okay.
I'm gonna ask you first. What what was your like overall, or what is your overall thought of our first season of the podcast?
Oh my gosh. I just love how you're thinking ahead. You're like, it's the first. There's gonna be more. This is
Well, yeah,
great.
there's gonna be more. There's gonna
Well,
be
I
more.
think first I need to give you credit. You're the one who came up with this idea, and I was so excited because I can't come up with all the ideas myself, right? And that's part of being a part of a collective is that we all have different ideas and I just think it's so wonderful that you're so I find you so, how do I say this, just motivated and want to do more. And especially at the end of the year, it's hard to muster up the energy to do some of these things,
Yeah.
but I've really appreciated your initiative on this. But what do I think of the new, this podcast? I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love talking about relationships, talk about them all day long. Um, and not just for relationships from a romantic standpoint, like relationships with friends, family, especially this time of year, right? Getting together
Yeah.
around the holidays, but also our relationship to ourselves. So I think it really complements the work that you and I do, but in a more casual setting. And I just love talking to you. I find you so easy to talk to, and
Oh,
so I
yeah,
find
gotcha.
these are really fun, right?
Yeah.
And then we got the honor of having, I believe, two guests, right? And I thought it was so interesting to get to know them a little bit better. And even though Julie is a part of our team, it's so different actually getting to hear her talk about what she's passionate about. And I felt like in that short segment, I learned so much. And I just found it a really interesting media to absorb, right? I think a lot of times we're used to researching and reading things, but it's a whole other thing to have someone share verbally.
Sure.
So, anyways, I think it's fantastic. I'm so grateful that you came to me with the idea. Um, I'm so glad we've kept it up because I think it's hard sometimes to
Yeah,
keep up, right, with our different schedules and our personal lives. And,
sure.
here we are recording on a Sunday before Christmas.
Right.
And I'm happy to be here, though. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, it does,
I don't know.
definitely.
What
Yeah,
about you?
same. I mean, this is something I've always kind of wanted to do. I love podcasts, and I love the idea of hearing different people's stories, especially professionals, and hearing about what made them kind of come to the point that they're at currently, and
Mm,
what they find fascinating about psychology or therapy. And that's really interesting. I think you kind of have to be curious about people's life stories as to want to be in the
Oh my
helping
gosh.
profession that we're in. But definitely just sort of being able to talk about things that maybe, I mean, we don't work in an office, so there's not that like water cooler experience of just
Exactly.
talking about things. Um, so it's nice to have another professional that you and I can sort of talk through things, and that can be fun. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I think it's great. What else?
Well, I was gonna say which was your favorite guest, but I don't think that's fair considering we only
It's
had
not fair
it's
because they
not
both brought such
we
different
did so different.
perspectives, one
Yeah.
on sex and sexuality and
Yeah.
on grief. And I feel um, I am not well versed in either of those actually. And so it was such a an honor to listen to them speak about how they approach various circumstances and like the therapeutic approaches that they use. Um, I felt like they were equally great.
Yeah, no, no, I definitely enjoyed hearing both of their experiences, and I hope people that listened got the same level of information or appreciated that level of information that we both seem to have
As much
appreciated.
as we did,
Yeah. And it makes me want to have more and more people on to hear,
right? I gotta
like,
convince the whole team to get on here.
I know, what the heck?
I know.
Just, yeah, I know, everyone needs to, you should make it mandatory. No.
I should, right? Somehow. I don't
You have
know.
to. Uh, but no, I know some people are not comfortable maybe being, it's like doing a presentation, right?
It is, well, a little. And this is a good segue into just like something I wanted to mention is a learning that I had. And I think it's been very obvious for you as well, with myself, that doing it off the cuff, like not preparing, not having too many notes. I've learned that having no notes actually is beneficial because we're in the moment, we're relying on our knowledge and our professional experience to talk about these topics. Um, I have found it to be more organic and like free flowing. Like you don't have to rehearse it, right? And I
Oh,
find that sometimes rehearsing what you're about to say actually makes it harder because then you're worried about like, am I saying the things that I meant to say, that I like planned to say? And that becomes the focus versus just being present, right? And you and I are present every day in our sessions. We have no idea, well, maybe you have some idea of like what the person wants to talk about and work through and stuff. So you have to have some idea and be prepared. But for the most part, like you and I rely on our skills and our knowledge.
yeah, I agree. I think I like when we have guests, I will say that I try to think of certain questions I might like when
No,
we
you've been
had
good at that because
well
I have.
when we had Morag on, I there were certain questions I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So organizing my thoughts a little more was helpful in that area. Um, but when we're talking about like when you and I right now are just sitting and talking about our
Yeah.
experience, like I didn't prepare for that.
No,
I don't know that would have done anything.
no. But
But
even when we've talked about like the Four Horsemen and like listening and like the rapport, like you and I know it like the back of our hand, right? So like I think I think it's a whole different experience when you're just in the moment and talking about what you have found to be helpful versus yeah, worrying about covering everything or saying it
yeah,
a particular way.
sure. No, I agree. And I've, just having talked with family members and friends who've listened to our podcast.
Oh my
Um
goodness.
oh yeah,
I
my
forget that people actually listen. I feel like this is still just for you and I.
right, it's nobody knows. No, definitely like I have family that my mother makes probably her office, everyone in her office listen. So
That is so cute. I should get my mother to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, really, my mother is our unofficial marketing person,
Love it.
at least for the States.
Love
Um,
it.
so yeah, she definitely listens and makes sure that she sends it to everyone and she posts it on Facebook and she's pushing
What
it for
support.
us.
So
She's
cute.
our little cheerleader.
As
But
parents should be,
yeah,
right?
but really what I was trying to say is that it's what I've heard from people is that everyone has really liked it, that they've appreciated the stuff that we talk about. So that's good to know.
I forget that again, right? I'm just like, you and
Yeah,
I are just doing a
just
thing.
talking.
We're
Just
just
talking.
chatting.
Yeah, which is good. I think that's why people like it because it's easy to listen to. There's not dead silence or awkwardness. We're not saying
No,
anything crazy. So, yeah.
no. No, it's really good to hear. I forget about that, right? And I'm actually really new to podcasts. I actually don't think I've well, no, that's a lie. My partner is listening to The Office Ladies.
Okay.
from The Office. So it's two of the actresses talking about each episode. And um, I really like how they've organized their podcast and that like it is more conversational as well. And they're just real people, right? And you and I are just real people too. I think sometimes our clients may even put us on a pedestal, like, oh, I wish I could be married to someone who has such like great knowledge on relationships and stuff like that. And then I just think like I mess up too. Like I have faults and weaknesses and like I need to practice what I preach as well, right? And I don't think I'm any better than anybody else. And if anything, I think they're better than me because they're getting help versus me. I'm focusing on everyone else and not on myself. So, anyways, I think what I'm trying to say is relatable. I think our podcast is
Yeah.
relatable, and I think that's when people want to chime in. They don't want to listen to something that's too lecture-like.
Well, yeah, they don't they want to feel like they're going to class and that there will be a test at the end.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's valid. Plus I think we've picked pretty interesting topics that don't
Our
normally
work
get
is
talked
very
about.
interesting.
Sorry?
Our work is very
Oh, yeah.
interesting, like by the nature of it, right? So,
Yeah, and I think it shows how much there is to learn about still. Like I think that's one reason I really like going into psychology is that there you're constantly learning something new.
yeah,
Constantly.
you
It's
can't know it
always
all.
something new.
Yeah, super exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, anything else about, well, like what do I want to do maybe in the new year
Yeah,
with
yeah,
our
yeah.
podcast? Like I would say have more members of our team come on and share their expertise, just from like a sheer interest standpoint, but also to get that out there, right? I mean, it's all marketing, working for ourselves. I think it's important and it humanizes us and brings our website and our work to life. I think it being two-dimensional still in many respects is hard to really kind of get a sense of a counselor. And I know we do our complimentary consultations to kind of get a better understanding of, okay, this person is actually, warm and welcoming and they're going to get me and all that stuff. So the more ways that we can kind of bring our work to life in a very like safe and easily digestible way. So yeah, more people on. I really like the idea of more questions. Also, if you and I see like themes in our work, I gotta get better at writing it down.
Yeah.
Um, like, oh, that would be a good topic. And then
Yeah.
you and I just bringing in our knowledge and experience.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, or even just um I think it would still be interesting to like pick a show or pick something where we kind of just talk about it from like the therapist perspective or
That'd be so cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's just an interesting thing because I will occasionally have a client who will say, "Oh, have you watched this show?
Oh
I really
yeah.
like it because, and then I watch it and I'm like, "Dang it, you're right. I do like it." Yeah.
Or isn't this awful? Like
Yeah, yeah, it'll be that.
debunk something.
Yeah, exactly. Or I don't know about you, but or how often you've ever watched like Law and Order.
Yes.
That show, I love Law and Order. However, uh, whenever they do it where they go to a therapist's office and they're like, give me all your notes, basically. And he is just like, here you go. And it's like, that's
It's not how it works.
that's not how that works. Or they get angry when they're like, I can't confirm or deny that this person is, it's just, it bugs me. It's a little thing. It's a little thing. But it bugs me.
Well, maybe that just tells you that like confidentiality and the reasons
Right.
why we have the things we do, like there's a reason for them, right? And you value them.
Well, especially since that was, I don't know, I'm sure for you as well, but just that was drilled into my head going through grad school of
Oh,
like
of course it was.
confidentiality is the thing.
Yeah. Well, and they put the fear of God in you that like
Yeah,
your privacy is going to
seriously.
be taken away from you. And I mean, who would ever, right? I mean, I think it's kind of
No,
obvious, but
sure.
yeah. I kind of feel similarly in like any show that brings up a therapist. I'm like, oh, curious. And I'm like looking at it from like another therapist lens. Like I'm not looking at it as just like a viewer. I'm looking at it as like, that definitely doesn't happen. Or like, oh, that actually was pretty good.
Yeah.
When like therapists are
Uh-huh.
giving guidance too, I'm like, Interesting. Like
Yep.
that's not actually BS. Or
Yeah.
I'm thinking that is BS, like one or the other.
Yeah. Very true. Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
there was one show that I had a client recommend to me that was out recently. It had Kristen Bell in it and Adam Brody. It's
oh
a
yes, that's a new one. I think it's
yeah,
on Netflix. I have not watched it yet, but it's on
it's
my
very,
list.
very good.
Is it
However,
okay?
yeah, it was very good. However, the two main characters, and I'm not giving anything away by saying this, but promise, but they had very dysfunctional families,
Okay.
and but they were able to be very functional without like any sort of like, oh hey, I've had therapy, or oh hey, like there would have been something. Like you don't
Right.
come from that dysfunctional of a family and not have some sort of quirk, I promise. Um, but just the fact they could communicate so well together as a couple, like yes, there was hiccups, but they worked through it, and I'm like, no, no. That was the one part that kind of took me out of it. So I was like, no, no. There would have been something.
Yeah,
I do not believe
totally. Yeah.
they would have
Oh my
communicated so
goodness.
beautifully.
I think shows now are doing a better job. Like when we look at older shows and they depict a mental health practitioner, like it's the typical lay on the couch and like, just talk and I'll tell you what your dreams mean and
Well, I smoke a cigarette.
while I smoke a cigarette, yes, and lean back in my like comfortable
Right.
chair.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't smoke
No,
during a
nothing.
session.
No. Mm-mm.
No one's laying down.
No, no, no,
Oh
no.
goodness. No, it's funny.
But yeah, so it just side note for anyone who hasn't watched it, it's really good. However, from a therapist perspective, I was like, kind of, there's no way somebody had therapy. That's I have to think somebody had therapy.
Someone's done the work. Someone's
Someone has
worked on
done the work
themselves.
because there's no way these two would communicate that well.
Some really good self-help books or something. Who knows what they're
Yes,
doing?
something. Maybe they were listening to our podcast. No, I'm just
Oh, cute. Cute. Love that thought. Oh my goodness.
So, any topics that you're wanting to do in the new year?
Funny enough, I thought maybe even today, which we're not going to do today, but I was like, oh, long distance relationships. That's something that's coming up.
Yeah.
Even like dealing with family dynamics is a big one. That one has just been top of mind during the holidays here. Um, yeah, family, long distance. But there's lots. I mean, like, I would love to talk more about infidelity in particular. Like, I'm seeing a lot of that as well. And um, I think seeking out therapy pretty much right away, if when that happens to somebody, um, certainly lends the best results, in my opinion. And so, talking about how, like, not to be afraid to reach out for help during this time and, um, yeah, because I think it's very time sensitive with a lot of things, and a lot of people try and figure it out for themselves right away, and harm happens. I mean, they are best intentions, but they don't have that guidance, and I think sometimes it even causes more pain.
That's fair. No, I agree with that sentiment 100%.
Those are some topics, yeah.
Yeah, I
You
like
can write
that.
this down, or I'm gonna have to think about it later.
It's recorded, so we can always
It's
go back.
recorded. Yeah, we're gonna have to listen to the podcast.
We'll just have to listen to the podcast. It's fine.
What about you?
Right. Well, I really would like, I think, to do more about like the sex therapy. I think that would be really interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
Especially as you do your course.
yeah, yep. I have a colleague that works with more extreme sex therapy stuff, so maybe having her on to talk
That'd be
would
so
be really
cool.
interesting. Um, and yeah, maybe something to do with like I have a whole bunch of colleagues that have worked in like substance abuse, so that could be kind of could
Mm.
tie that back to relationships as well,
Oh
um,
yeah.
big time. And
Hmm.
I don't know. The list goes on, right?
I know. There's so much.
Yeah. I
We
think
won't have a shortage of ideas, that's for
no,
sure.
that's the problem. Is like the list just grows every single time. But yeah, I think just maybe getting creative about different ways that we talk about things would be kind of interesting. Doing, something completely different would be fun, like picking a random TV show to do just like one episode on, or a book or something like that,
Yeah,
just for something fun.
I love that. It doesn't have to be so serious.
No, no. Well, so there is one question we have to
Yeah, let's do it.
our end of the year podcast. So I'm gonna play the audio of it.
Oh, excellent.
We will then, hold on, I'm just turning up the volume, and then we can answer it.
Perfect.
My question is, what should someone do when they find out that their partner's parent is dying or has a diagnosis of an incurable illness? Are there certain techniques that they should use to offer support without overstepping boundaries? Are there things that they can do to kind of, I guess, like anxiety proof their relationship with their partner? Should the partner, I guess inevitably when they begin to feel a lot of anxiety and grief and other big emotions around their parent's illness or death, is there any way to future proof any potential, emotional destruction when, a partner feels a loss of control because of their parent's illness or how their parents are, maybe progressing through an illness? So basically, my question.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
Okay, so that was our question.
Loaded question,
It's a
right?
heavy
It's a big
question.
one.
Yeah. So just end of the new year, ended on the new year with a really heavy one. Um,
Yeah, you
it's a
can
great,
by all means take it away if you want.
sure. That's a hard one. I think it's lovely that she wants to kind of, as she put it, like future proof her relationship for this inevitable
Well,
big.
proactive, right?
Yeah. That shows how much she clearly cares about this
Yeah.
partner. Uh, I think the problem kind of happens when everybody grieves a little differently. And so how she might have grieved the loss of a parent versus how her partner might grieve the loss of his parent is going to be different. And I think you kind of
Yeah.
have to go into it recognizing that you might not know how your partner is going to grieve till you're in it. I would say the biggest thing to do is be there for them.
Yeah.
Let
What
them,
could that look like?
yeah, be there for them as in physically, like sit with them, hold their hand,
Right.
tell them that it's going to be okay, that their grief is normal.
Validate, sure.
Yes, lots of validation, definitely. Make sure that, maybe take them to a grief group at some point.
Or encourage that. Yeah.
Yeah, or
If
encourage
that's
it so that,
something that they like to do, like the group type setting stuff.
yeah, something where they can be maybe a bit normalized. I don't want to say
Mhm.
normalized, but like somewhere in that they can have support from other
Other
people
people
that
who
are
are
also
going
going
through the
through
same thing.
it. Yeah. I would definitely, yeah, I would just say being present with your partner as they're going through this and making sure however they need you to be there, you are.
Yeah, certainly, without giving up like parts of yourself,
Of
right? Or putting
course.
yourself at
Yeah.
risk. I
Yeah,
think
don't,
that goes without saying for us, but thought I would just say it
no,
anyways.
that's valid. Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, it's a big question because it sounds like the partner is probably very close to the father. So
Mm.
have
It sounds
them,
like there's a good relationship there.
yeah. So that's going to be a difficult
It's
experience.
hard on everybody,
Yeah.
right? Like grief and loss is really challenging and
Yeah. Yeah.
especially with the anticipatory nature of
Mm,
it, like with a terminal illness or like a chronic illness, or those are the same thing. Um, like, yeah, or just aging parents in general. I mean, it's
yeah.
inevitable, right? So we don't want to be morbid or like think worst case scenario that they're going to die tomorrow, but at the same
Yeah.
time, we do need to like mentally prepare for that loss and really think about like what's important to you, right? Like as a person who's experiencing it, but also the like your loved one is experiencing it on maybe a significant level. Um, just oh dear, what was I saying? I've lost my thought. Like you said, being there for sure. Yeah, because we don't like it's gonna happen. And
Mhm.
like you said, everyone grieves differently. And so I would just add to your validation, like empathy, right? Like it makes sense to me that you feel this way, trying to meet their needs where you can without giving up parts of yourself. So if that's like, I need more physical touch right now, I need lots of hugs or like be held, or maybe actually I need to be left alone a bit and I want to process this on my own, but when I'm ready, I'll come to you and try and hold space for that.
Yeah. I might also add, like, depending on where the parent is, like as in how close physically they are, um, are there ways of connecting with that parent more so that there's more memories, there's more, it feels like you've really connected or
Or
you've,
sought
yeah,
closure
those would be
or some
like,
kind of like meaning making. We don't
yeah.
want to live with regrets, of course, right? So like after acknowledging the feelings, what do we want to do with those feelings, right? So it's kind of part of like I think acceptance commitment therapy where like you acknowledge the feeling, you accept it for what it is, like you're allowed to be sad, but then what are we going to do with that sadness,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so maybe that's spending time with them, maybe that's, forgiveness, maybe that's connecting spiritually or religiously.
Yeah.
Um, it could look like so many different things, but as a partner, just holding space for flexibility and like openness to whatever form that takes for your partner. Um, Funny enough, I was thinking as soon as I heard the question there, I was thinking like in theory, I think it's quite simple. In practice, I think it's quite challenging.
Yeah.
In empathize, validate, listen, meet their needs if you can, be honest if you can't.
Yeah.
Um, like that's kind of it, right? Like just no judgment, be a listening ear, take their side, have their back, right? Um, Yield to them when you can. And like I really think these are very simple things. They're not complicated things.
Right.
But putting them into practice can be hard because maybe you're experiencing your own version of the grief.
Right.
Maybe you're an empath and like seeing your partner go through that is really challenging.
Yeah.
Um, like for a lot of reasons I think like emotional regulation, right? Like it's
Mhm.
hard for me to regulate myself. How could I listen to you? Or who knows, right? Like it can be hard in practice, but I think in theory the answer to the question is very simple.
Yeah, I agree. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, so to speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, because we're talking about something that hasn't actually happened yet, as in like the
Right.
person has passed away. So it is, I- yeah. So I think you just kind of have to take it day by day and, like you were saying, be present with them, be empathetic, be what they need in that moment if you can emotionally or physically do it.
Right.
And yeah.
And it's very simple, right? And I think
Right.
like that's what makes, and I'm not a grief expert as we know, makes it so challenging is because there isn't a right or wrong answer and there's nothing we can fix.
Right.
Can't fix it. Just listen. Just be there. They either, I believe most of the time, your partner doesn't need you to fix it,
Right.
or they like there is nothing to be fixed, right? It just is what it is. And they're working on the acceptance of the fact that their parent, their loved one, whomever, is not going to be there much longer.
And I would say that this is a good example of something that really can't be fixed. Because if they're dying and it's a they're going to die thing, which I guess technically we are all gonna die, but But in this instance, it's a like disease reason. And so, yeah, you can't fix it. You just got to be there.
No, yeah, just acceptance. I think it's tough to not fix for
Yeah.
many people,
Yes.
right? For a variety of reasons. But I think if you try and go down the fix it route, that's when problems occur because then your partner often, what I hear and have experienced myself, is like, you don't get it, right? Like, how can you fix it if you don't understand? But also, this is a non-fixable thing. Like, what you're saying is kind of going over my head versus like resonating. And so that's why I always encourage to get curious and, um, if there's any fears, let's say, for example, because I think a lot of times with death comes a lot of fear. And fear is a tricky one because we don't want to just tell them it's going to be okay when that's almost like toxic positivity, or it could be invalidating their fears, and everyone kind of develops their own sense of safety in the world. And so I would just get curious with them, which is like, what do you think is going to happen? What are you afraid of is going to happen? And just like being open, right? I think that's a big part of what you and I are trying to say.
Yeah, I would also say maybe encouraging your partner to try to focus on the things they can control in the situation,
Yes.
which I guess maybe goes back to, connecting with the parent and
Yes.
creating some sort of meaning with the parent or
Yep.
things like that.
Yep.
But yeah.
Nailed it.
Okay.
Complex question. I
Yeah.
think it's a relatively simple answer,
Yeah,
but applying it is tricky.
definitely. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can always reach out for support, right? Like you said, like be it individual grief counseling, or a group-based approach, or just like letting them be and have their process, whatever that process could be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, thank you for the question.
I hope the person who asked it, I hope that helps them.
Yeah, I hope so too. Um, yeah, maybe we'll get a follow-up.
Ooh,
Maybe I'll reach out.
exciting. Okay.
Okay. Um, well, Tori,
Yeah, do we want to call it there?
I think so. I
Just
mean,
say Happy New Year and like
happy
it's
New
been
Year,
real
happy
and
holidays. However you spend it, hopefully you're all safe and happy and warm. How about that?
well, that's it. Yeah. I often say, I hope you're not working and I hope you're just spending it the way you want to spend it.
Exactly. Okay. Well, we will see you in the new year. Hopefully with new ideas, new guests, and um us both being well rested. How about that?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.